Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the January East Whiteland Board of Supervisors meeting. My name is Bill Holmes. To my left is Sue Drummond. To my right is Rich Orlow. If you could, please rise as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Session to discuss personnel and legal matters with the board. First up is approval of the December 14th meeting minutes. I had to change just more clarification. It involved a question by Mr. Morrow about is it possible to access information held at the county level from the website? I thought, Scott, you told me we were planning on doing it, right? Having the ability from the East Whiteland website to try to access a lot of the county.
Parcel data, we would link to the cookies system.
I just figured if we can add that, and I can talk to you more. Because I figure there's probably not the only one that is expecting to know that kind of information. So that people that read the minutes, some people have to do that. If they see that, then they'll know we're going to include county information. Other than that, I had no changes.
I suggested one change, which I understand has been made.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the December 14th Township Supervisor meeting as amended.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor? Aye. Several Township building will be closed on Monday, January 16th in observance of Martin Luther King Day. The East Whiteland Township's monthly Board of Supervisors meetings are currently broadcast on dedicated government access channels on Comcast number 996 and Verizon number 46. We also stream our meeting broadcasts on municipalmeeting.com. An executive session was held on December 14th. I think that was the one after the meeting. And we regretfully want to inform everybody that Ken Batten, who is our Director of Code and Life Safety, has resigned. The board has accepted his resignation. I do want to say we appreciate all the work Ken has done, and we wish him the best of luck in his new position. Next up, public comment. Is there anybody have any public comment about anything that is not currently on the agenda? Okay. Next up, reports from communications from boards, commissions, and townships officials. East Whiteland Volunteer Fire Association. Barry Sheridan's here.
Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks for having us. First thing I want to do is introduce everyone to our officer staff for the year. New Fire Chief John DeMarco, Deputy Fire Chief Mark Koenig, Assistant Chief Garrett Novacek, Chris Strauss will be Battalion Chief, Dan Sheridan's Captain, and Kyle O'Brien's Fire Lieutenant. Quentin just left, Quentin Lotz is our EMS Captain, Trick Brown will be the EMS Lieutenant, Tommy Cockerham will remain as Fire Police Captain.
Congratulations to all
Thank
the
you.
officers, and thank you for your service, especially in leadership positions.
So I want to, first off, the biggest thing I want to do tonight is I want to thank the community for the support for the residents of 579 Lancaster Avenue after the Christmas Eve fire. The residents turned out to really support that family. So it's a great testament to our community here and everything that went on. For anybody that doesn't know, there was a fairly significant fire that displaced a family from the rental unit in the township there. 9:30 Christmas Eve, and it was an interesting evening. I'd like to ask John to go ahead and give a report, and I have one paperwork thing to do for our land lease. So John, you want to give the report? And thank you. Any questions, you can call.
Thank you for that, Gary.
Good evening, everyone. Again, Happy New Year, and I hope that's a very safe and prosperous New Year. For the month of December, there were a total of 87 EMS calls, 39 fire calls, bringing us to 126 calls total for the department. Again, as the President referred to, we had a catastrophic fire that displaced a family on Christmas Eve. But also, I'd like to take note that we turned out almost 20 volunteers on one of the toughest nights of the year and harsh conditions who put themselves at risk for people who they didn't know. I can tell you that I'm deeply humbled as the new fire chief to be able to work with these people. There's a lot of talent in the organization, and I'm definitely going to take full advantage of it, I assure you. Of those calls, 79 were in East Whiteland Township, and we know that we also cover Charlestown. 19 were in Charlestown, the other remaining in the other political subdivisions that we assisted. Internally in the organization, members are continuing with their annual recertification of self-contained breathing apparatus, hazardous materials, and bloodborne pathogens. As I'm in this transition state, so I ask for your forgiveness for about a month or two until I get my feet on the ground here. I've had a great time, a lot of great people helping me in this transition. Our president over here, I'm probably bombarding and killing him with phone calls and emails, but a lot of great communication. The volunteers of the department, again, really great as far as that. Also, I see seated in the back of the room is the township's career firefighter staff. Again, I can't do the job without their help. They are a tremendous benefit for me, giving me the support to do the job, and I just wanted to know that as they're sitting here this evening. Mr. Nagel and Mr. Orlo, you were at the Board of Directors meeting at the fire company last night. There were a lot of agenda items that I had put out as far as for goals and objectives from the operations at the fire company. The one I will bring up to the board this evening is the one that we are going to commit to begin the process of conducting a master comprehensive plan of fire operations. This will give us a true roadmap of where we need to go for fire operations within our organization. And that will have many elements to that, part of that study. I think one of the elements that I think the board would be extremely interested in is there will be a fiscal module in there. So we know that as municipalities, we need to plan fiscally for the future. The landscape of this community has changed. The calls where there were once fields are now houses. So maybe we went to field fires here years ago, but now we're going to more EMS calls. So we need to address all of that. What I will be reaching out is to the Board of Supervisors, as well as other members of the community, outstanding members of the community, the business community of both Charlestown and East Whiteland, to come together collectively, to be shareholders in this report, and to, again, help us map the future for operations and provide good customer service. So with that, I'll excuse myself and let you get on your agenda. Thank you.
John, can I just ask, on the house that burned on Christmas, do you know if that's going to be repairable, or is that going to be funded in any of the?
The short answer is I don't know if it is repairable. I know that they're not allowed to live there as of now. So it's been boarded up and you're not allowed to.
Do you know if the cause was determined? I just read that it was accidental.
The cause was accidental. The exact cause is being determined by the Chester County Fire Marshal's Office.
I also heard you rescued a horse yesterday.
Yes, members responded and they pulled a horse out of the ice. As a matter of fact, Captain Stewart's right there on the far end. That's his picture you see, so he owes everybody around after the meeting.
You got it.
If there's no questions, I'll excuse myself. Thank you.
Good luck with everything. Obviously, let us know how we can help with the transition.
Thank you, sir.
And we look forward to working.
I'm very enthusiastic. I got a great group of people to work with. Thank you.
Next up, chairs, volunteer boards and commissions, I don't know. Let's see any of the other.
Did you reappoint me?
Yes, congratulations. Looks like you're going to be busy right away. So, and thank you again for serving. Next up, Public Works Director, Bill.
I just want to report on our capital projects, the Woodward Elementary Station, the building is on the roof. A little slow. There's some components that are waiting on, such as control panels that are a long lead item. And the generator should be delivered soon, to be going inside the building. The Valley Creek Park project, the pavilion is complete. They still have some sidewalks and some minor items to do once the weather gets a little better to complete that project. And the last is the Whitten Village sewer extension, which you see on our property down here. They did get the board complete. It was on the wetlands area down there. And their plan of attack will be from this location to Church Road. And then the last section they'll do is we'll go back across behind the Lane Pump Station, cross 401, and make the final connection here where they're working now. That's it.
Thanks, Bill. Next up, I'm going to be Codes and the Life Safety Director.
Actually, this may be an opportunity for Joe to give his monthly report.
Okay.
Well, actually, just submit my report to you if there's any questions on it.
I personally didn't have any questions. Next up, Police Chief. I don't know, Chief. I did want to read a couple letters if you didn't have any updates.
Nothing except for this report.
All right, thank you. We did receive 2 letters of recognition. One was concerning a bank robbery in Malvern, and we got 2 letters concerning the work that Detective Cope has and our Police Secretary, Bryn Badman, did concerning their assistance with the investigation and help with case being on the scene as well. Well, obviously, Detective Cope has both. One was from Chief Lou Marcelli from Malvern, and the other was from Tom Trishko, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Director of Security. I assume he's with Malvern Savings?
Yes.
Okay. I think something that Mr. Ostrishko said kind of summed up what Chief Marcelli had mentioned in his letter. This was very nice, and he went into great detail, but I think he would agree that basically Mr. Ostrishko said, I'd like to take this opportunity to bring to your attention the excellent work performed by officers of East Whiteland Township Police Department on December 12th at the Malvern Branch Bank robbery. Mr. Ostrishko said he quickly saw that the officers had the scene in complete control and were very helpful with the investigation. He went on to say, in summary, this incident is an indication of the work being performed by the officers in the East Whiteland Township Police Department. You should be very proud, and of course we are very proud of our police officers and the work that they do. So thank you to Chief Marcelli and Mr., I apologize, Ostrishko, for the nice letters of recognition. We also received a letter, excuse me, from one of the residents in the township, Verna Justice, and it concerned Officer Steinmetz, Sergeant Stefanski, Sergeant Wilson, and Officer Ralph. Basically, this Justice got into a traffic accident, and I won't say her age, but she's been around for a while, and she said it was her first one ever, but the officers were very courteous, respectful, and compassionate to me. She wanted to let them know how much they were appreciated with their assistance, and I know it is their job, but they did it very well and should be commended. So please let everybody know I said thank you. So I've done my job, and again, thanks to the police, obviously, when we have Ms. Justice about their help with the traffic accident. So thanks again. Next up, Planning and Development Director, Ms. Geiger. And John, I don't know if you have anything besides your report.
The only item I want to acknowledge, in addition to the report, is something we'll cover later on this evening. Chairman, you referenced it in recognizing Ken for his service here. Earlier today, he met among his peers, the department heads and myself, and we presented him with a plaque that basically says, in recognition of 24 years of superior service to East Whiteland Township in leadership capacities, including Director of Codes and Life Safety. Ken's professionalism, work ethic, and dedication to his profession and community are exceptional. Best wishes in future endeavors of East Whiteland Township community. Ken has left quite a legacy here, and so our challenge is to find a replacement that will continue that tradition going forward.
Ken did a great job. He's been missed, but I understand he's taking a kind of a step up, so good for him. He's moving up, and again, he will be missed, and thank you for his service to the township. Next up, acceptance of the treasurer's report.
Matthew Palmer. I'd like to give a brief summary of the year-end report for 2016. For 2016, we budgeted for an operating deficit of $441,000, and we ended the year with a surplus of $935,000. Significant real estate transfer taxes, which were $1.3 million better than budget, and the sale of the public works garage offset some budget shortfalls in our earned income taxes and building permits. Payroll costs for the year were $159,000 lower than budget. Health insurance was slightly higher prior to claims that we will pay in January for 16. Current cash balances are $15 million, including $6.8 million for sewer projects and sewer debt payments, and $4.4 million for capital improvement projects. Do you have any questions regarding our results?
No, I mean, I did, you pretty much anticipate what I was going to talk about, but besides the surplus and the transfer taxes, it looks like we were trimming our expenses through the year. I have it to, looks like about...
It's about $484,000 in the operating expenses other than the payroll and the medical costs.
So, I mean, I know we were looking at the budget every month to try and keep things down while the revenues were down, so appreciate that. We have the board. Say thanks to the staff, John, the things you guys have done to keep the expenses low. So revenues weren't doing that great until we finally got the transfer tax, and that obviously helped us out. So, so we appreciate your assistance on that. If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's report for December.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Next up, accept the approval of payment of bills and payroll. I do not see any question.
I just had one question. There's actually not on here, the payment that we make each month under the other post-employment benefits program for the Medicare amount. There's none this month. I guess this month was paid in December.
For the OPEB benefits, we pay $50,000. We were transferring this year.
No,
And we did make that.
I mean the payments to
For the pensions?
all the former employees.
Oh,
The
Medicare
Medicare, 100 and change
Right,
to each person. There's none in this month. I guess where they,
it might
Paid
be
at
that
the end of
we
last
have
month?
some payments that we're still making that will be charged to 16, but usually we pay them in the beginning of the month, so I'll have to
Yeah, that's-
verify that.
Okay.
But we do have payments that will be made this week that will be charged to 16.
actually,
Okay.
yeah, we'll have to check that. That's all I.
I'll entertain a motion then.
I'll make a motion to ratify the payments list of January 11th.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up, under new business, there was no old business. Under new business, discussion of municipal complex, space needs analysis, presentation by Paul, I apologize if I mispronounced this, Scro. And,
I'm John Meadows. Paul is not able to make it tonight, but I will recall.
Okay.
You know,
And I don't know if there's going to be a presentation.
Yeah, I've asked John to make a brief presentation, just to give you a background as John sets up. We continue to have capacity issues in this building, along with some other building issues that we need to address in the near future and also in sometime down the road. We're not recommending any tangible changes tonight. What we're asking, the board was kind enough to allow us to have an architect do a needs study just to keep the process moving, the planning process moving towards an eventual recommendation in some form or another. So really tonight's a progress report of what the architects were able to determine through the needs analysis, and then we'll determine next steps as we go forward later this year. So with that, I guess John can follow.
thank you. I believe you all have copies of this document. I don't need to project. This is the program document. I think I looked through the pages there.
It's a little different, but yeah.
So,
John, if you could just.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and then, okay, let's get the next one, so, okay.
And this month, we're actually using a third camera, so John will
Amazing
be,
show.
his face will show.
Smile.
okay. Yeah, I guess my name is John Meadows. I'm with Bernardin. We've actually, we're the architects of the public building. And we, over this past fall, during the course of a couple meetings, have met with the township, with John and department heads and various folks in the administration, the police department, to talk through what their future space needs should be, and also actually what the present space needs should be in a lot of cases too. I mean, I think as John had alluded to, space is a little tight for, right now, especially for the police department. So what we did is met with these groups and just went through step by step to understand how they operate, what they, what kind of personnel needs they have, what kinds of spaces they need to accommodate them in. We generated to help understand a lot of these spaces too, we generated some conceptual diagrams of different spaces, office spaces, both private offices, open work environments, office suites, that kind of thing, just to help convey and make sure we understood what was important to them to help them function well, and that helped us determine, some of the space needs of these areas. You know, what do you truly need to make a little office suite work with some of the things you may need in there, like a large layout table for plans and that kind of thing. So that was the general method. We met two times. We met a first time to get the first round of information, documented that in the same format as you see now. Met again to go through that point by point and pick up where perhaps we didn't understand something correctly, or there were some cases where in the interim in between the two meetings, someone realized, maybe this would be a good idea to have. And this is still a, like John said too, it's not a, it's not set in stone necessarily. I would still call it an evolving document to some extent, because one point that's been made a couple of times throughout this process was looking for more opportunities to share spaces. Kind of get more efficiency in terms of, when you drill down more into the details, seeing where, conference rooms can be shared, other facilities can be shared, getting some more efficiencies. One of the challenges, though, is going to be, well, where do you actually put this space? Because just for a summary, right now this building is in the, right around 12,000 11,500 square feet or so. The total space being projected is about 37,000 square feet, I think. And then there was even thought, perhaps a district court could occur in there too. That's enough additional space, but that's kind of a side issue. So there's a number of ways you can approach that. Combination of renovation of existing building, addition to existing building, perhaps some new building construction, that sort of thing. So that's all stuff that occurs down the road, but the purpose of this was to just really look at what kind of facilities would be ideal in a sense for what the township needs, and in terms of desks, people, storage space, and in the case of the police department, all the functions that happen there, and what really works well for the police department. So that's a general overview. And if there's any specific questions about how this is formatted, or other aspects of it, I can try to answer that.
It looks like the copy we got was only for the administration. Is there also one for the police, or?
There is, yes.
Oh, okay. I don't think we received that.
I do have some copies here.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, not to go yeah, it would be good to have it. Looking at it, I'm thinking, I'm not really seeing some of the things the police need, or any of the things.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I was looking through this, I'm thinking, I don't see anything that the police need, or anything that they need.
7 copies. Actually, I should also point out too, the way we structured this program was we did kind of look at it conceptually from an idea of how spaces would be distributed. It's not necessarily the way, not necessarily a definitive way that something should happen, but it's kind of the way something could happen. We kind of looked at the scenario of renovating this building plus some addition to this building to accommodate the administrative functions, and then considering a separate building for the police and for codes and life safety. It would be difficult, so it would be, there's not a lot of room around this building in particular to grow. It may not be impossible, but it would definitely be a challenge. So some new construction would actually help phasing as well, because you can imagine when you try and when one division needs to expand or improve the facilities, if there's new space for them to move into, that's that's really an ideal way of trying to phase that.
Have you done other township complexes, Lyndon?
We've done the Kennett Township municipal building. We're working on a similar space needs analysis, and actually we're in the planning stage for Upper Euclid Township. And we've done work, of course, for East Whiteland for the Public Works. Those are probably the most recent ones, Upper Euclid.
So are you continuing on this project? What's the next step of this? Or is this kind of evaluated? What happens?
The board approved money in the budget for 2017 for a feasibility study. If this is acceptable, if this needs analysis is acceptable to the board this evening, then we would ask for authorization to engage the architect to do the feasibility study, which is a more in-depth study of what the feasibility of building this concept would be. I'm not an architect, but from a layman's
That's what we actually had prepared a two-part proposal. The first part was this space needs analysis. Basically, what are the numbers, like how much space is needed, see, what's kind of the number we're looking at for this. The second part of it was to begin to look at this on the site and say, well, how does that square footage fit on this site? And looking at it in a few different ways as well, like saying, well, what if it all happens in one place? Like, what does that look like? Can it happen? What does it look like if it's a combination of addition and new construction? So it's taking those raw numbers and breaking them down into different components and seeing how they fit on the site. Just almost like you see on the screen here, like boxes on a plan. Meaningful boxes that are the kind of reasonable shapes for these types of buildings, just to get an idea of what's the bulk of this, and even taking into consideration things like topography, like does the topography encourage a multi-level building in a certain location versus another.
This is more for the future, but is in your experience, is it more efficient cost-wise to build the ground up or to renovate? And it probably depends on the building, obviously.
It does. I mean, of not interrupting your operation, all new is good. I think in the end that would wind up being more than a combination of some renovation and new construction. Not a whole lot more, but it's probably more than that.
And just to kind of fill in some of the, at least from my perspective, when John presented tonight, I heard a number that caught me, not by surprise, but just caught me as an important number, is tripling the square footage. It's not that we're tripling the amount of employees that we have here. It's things like that there's a couple accessory uses that we don't currently have that I'll mention. But things like the lobby of the building, we have folks that are suspects or people under arrest that are actually coming through the lobby and using public restrooms, just like the folks that are on the trails, the employees, that type of thing. This is a very open building with not a high level of security, and it's great we have the police department under the same roof, but I think there's some basic security changes that we need to make to the building. There's some major HVAC, heat, ventilation, and air conditioning upgrades that need to happen to this building. And then there is, if I recall correctly, because we went through this process before the holidays, but there really isn't a lot of additional position. I don't think we're planning for expanding the staff greatly with this proposal. As far as the accessory uses, I think one of the things that I have been encouraging the architect to consider programming for is the fact that we're close to the Chester Valley Trail, and we get a lot of traffic from that. We get a lot of traffic to use the facilities here. And so one of the ideas is actually to consider I may be using the wrong term, but bumping out part of this facility so that they can have a public access for just the restrooms, because it becomes quite an issue. And John had mentioned the local magistrate. There's been some discussion among the staff about creating some ways to offset some of these costs, and there's a benefit to maybe centralizing the magistrate's office in this building, so we obviously benefit because it's easier for us to access, but also we get some income generated from that as well. So I think those are two examples of the kinds of things that we would be doing differently than what we currently do in this building. I don't know, the department heads were involved in this process as well. If I'm missing anything, please let me know. We did talk to the police, we talked to codes, all the administrative functions. So it's really just being able to work in a more usable space than it is expanding for future growth in number of employees or anything of that nature.
The district court notes indicate space needed based on a May 3rd, 2016 request for proposal for a June 2017 move-in. Is that now obsolete or?
Well, it's obsolete for their present needs. They were, I guess, and John can maybe help me with this too, because I think he knows a little more about it, but they were, I guess they had to make a move very quickly from the previous location. They were essentially moving into an existing building for a 5-year lease. So in 5 years, maybe they have a need, and that may or may not coincide with this. And, yeah.
So I'm looking at the property for the township, and then we bought some near Mill Lane near the fire station. As part of the feasibility study, are you guys going to consider what the footprint of any new facilities would be, and then whether we can accommodate it? Obviously, best case scenario for us would be to keep everything centrally located. So is that going to be part of what the feasibility study, the review area will be?
Yes. Yeah, it would basically, we would look at the entire campus, so to speak, and yeah, including that parcel that you just mentioned, and you know, see how that can work to your advantage, see the opportunities there.
One of the reasons or suggestions regarding having a separate public safety building besides the service function is access, especially when the public works garage was being built. There was quite a competition going on between the civilian traffic and the emergency traffic to get out to Conestoga Road. So one of the things that we've been kicking around is the possibility that the emergency services would have separate access, and for safety purposes and for response purposes than the civilian employees, as well as the public, the general public, the trail users, the folks with carriages and, you know, those things. So that should get all vetted out through the feasibility study process.
So if we, once we give the okay to this, and I think John, we've already budgeted money for it, how long would it take before you guys could develop the first draft of the feasibility study? And do you need anything else from the board or the staff as far as other information?
No, I think we have a pretty good basis of information. We can certainly, if we need to, we have any questions,
Sure.
it's easy enough to follow up with John. In terms of the first draft, I mean, I would say that can be, you know, within a month or two, if that. So it's really a it's a high level type study, yeah.
Yeah, I think John's ready to go with when the bell rings. I think it's more internally making our folks available, the things that are going on, making sure we can dedicate the time to do this right. So David and Ernst have been very responsive.
Is the feasibility study a narrative or is it floor plan sketches?
It's graphics, I wouldn't call it floor plans, it's more like site plan sketches. So it'll be, we'll have a site plan, we'll be looking at how buildings and parking could possibly get.
More like the cartoon stage.
Yeah.
That's what I don't
The concept
That's what I call
cartoon
it.
stage.
It's actually a technical term.
So a lawyer did.
So I think I'm just to be, okay. And kind of all, because I was thinking, what Rich is saying, basically what we're going to get as far as, if there's renderings or anything like that, but also not detailed floor plans, but is it going to tell us, hey, you're going to need, based on the space they have and what your needs are, you need a multi-level building or 2 buildings, or, so we'll have things of that nature?
Yes,
Okay.
It'll probably be multiple options. I mean, to the extent that that's possible. I think we anticipate there being some different ideas of how that can be, how it can be accommodated.
And one of the goals will definitely be to try to get that square footage number reduced.
Oh, that's one.
Good evening. I have a question regarding to,
We have a new procedure. We need you to come up to the front and sign in and just recognize you. Sorry about that. Getting more formal.
the question I have is in regard to the police needs. Presently, we have a police shooting range at the corner of Mill, 401. Basically, it's jury rigged from an old sewer plant. They'll all be equipped with water, or wastewater, or something like that. There are some issues in regard to that, particularly quality of life, noise, but primarily it's safety. Because it's jury rigged, certain drills take place actually outside the building, where police shoot into the building, usually 20 feet out. But if you look at the layout for that, these drills take place within 100 feet of Mill Lane, 100 feet of 401. And of course, when they do take place, and again, it's not every day, and the police department's been very cooperative with the residents in terms of trying to put some rules to control the noise at this point. In the past year, the police department came before the zoning hearing board to expand the building, and certain rules were set about by that, but even so, there's still issues in ventilation, noise, safety, etc. So my question is, are we addressing the need? Obviously, there's need for police shooting, but possibly designing or developing, building a proper shooting range in this needs analysis?
I think the chief can answer that question.
Yeah, an indoor shooting range would be prohibitively expensive, and the plans are any minute there's going to be a range open at South Coast, which is where the municipal training center is. And I think the last thing to be developed is the range. So that's what we've been kind of depending on. That's why we have what we have. Considering where it is and what we've done and the amount of money that we've spent, it's pretty well done and it's pretty safe. We qualified twice a year there with the sidearms, rifles up at golf driving. But soon, to answer your question, soon, he knows more than I do. About a year, we may have the county training facility with a full range. It's outdoors too. I mean, that's the safest outdoors. It will be online. So we're just kind of limping by until that happens.
Okay, so the long range intent is to more or
Not
less
having
transfer
your-
that function to.
Yeah, not having your, I mean, it's going to cost us an extra budget because we have to get there and back. But from what I'm told, one of the costs would be, across the street, we use our own firearm staff. So they have to be present, so there's 2 minimum, maybe 3 people. When we go to Coastal, all we have to do is send that officer because they'll have staff there. So it'll save on instructors' costs and salary costs. So the plan is, the long-range plan is not to have firearms here. It's to go to South Coast when we use the county facility.
That'd be great, because I think the concerns expressed by residents before the zoning hearing board.
It would be good for us and everybody else.
Yeah.
But for right now, there is no alternative. That's it. If we're going to qualify, and it's going to be reasonable costs. I mean, we would be doing it, so we tried to do it half a dozen other places. We used to go to West Goshen, and they shut down their range. We tried to go to a couple of private ranges, and you're not allowed to take the gun out of the holster and shoot. We're not allowed, we have to qualify. So it has to be a quick draw situation. Private ranges don't work. Draw situations.
So I guess the intent would be then not to expand this building.
No. Well, right now, I think what we're trying to do is expand it so that we can use it for the time being left. But Marty, our intention is not to use that after the county firearms opens up, hopefully in a year. Would you say that's? Yep. Good. I got that right.
That'd be great.
Yeah, Marty, that's, our intention is not to have a range here. They're not entirely.
I might add that Lieutenant Erpolism,
Yes.
he's been very helpful in working with the residents in
Yeah.
terms of noise issues.
Well, we're sincere, it's a pain in the neck. But we've got to do it twice a year in order to maintain our efficiency, in order for, if we are going to use a firearm in an emergency situation, we got to know what we're doing.
Thank you.
Is that, I'm not, a question for you, is that facility is township owned then, right?
Well, it used to be the Vulgar Valley Wastewater Company. It was put in there when Street Mills was built, and the Rascal Park, that was part of this franchise. And when public stores went in, that whole property was turned over to the township. That's quick history. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, go ahead.
Or anybody else from the audience have any questions?
I would just ask the board, make a motion to authorize the beginning of the feasibility study. And the amount of the feasibility study was based on a proposal from Bernard in late last year. We asked that the board move on that proposal so that we'll begin the feasibility study. I believe it was in the mid-40s and 46.
I'll make a motion to approve moving forward on the feasibility study.
We'll say by Bernard.
Bernard.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next up is a motion to consider from O'Brien Systems for Phase 2 of the records management application. I think we've already gone through Phase 1, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the original proposal was to do both phases in the same year, and in a belt-tightening mode and decision, we deferred the second half of that project to 2017, and that is included in the 2017 budget. Basically, phase 1 was the basement, and phase 2 is the first floor. So there's a number of enhancements that are being made to the first floor, more for file and retention purposes. And so that proposal will actually have with me. It was just updated this week. The budget was 65 and the proposal came in, this is under state contract, the proposal came in at 62,261. It's the same company that did the basement phase of the project.
Well, is this expected to free up space, or just make the existing space covered by files more efficient? Both.
We actually, part of their proposal is they have a professional organizer that's going to be coming in and advising us on how to use some of the space that they currently have. So there's a few areas that are, I would call them high volume paper storage areas that we're going to streamline. And that'll We have one of these systems, it's put in the basement, actually, have it here, but there's an excellent picture in the Daily Local News. It was a before and after picture.
Okay.
I think it convinced the fire board to move forward with that part of the project.
So we're doing the same thing on this floor?
Similar, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Right now, in the case, we have 3 employees sharing a workspace, so part of this project will help improve that workspace.
And the key is just to make everything more accessible, more affordable.
Right.
More quality beyond everything else.
And we have electronic systems that have helped reduce the amount of paper we have in the building, but there's still, because of the planning, zoning, documentation that we have to keep for long periods of time, we just have a need to keep physical plan to store that. It can't be stored electronically.
And I guess perhaps this will also help reduce the square footage in a new building.
Absolutely. All this equipment is transferable, and that was part of the proposal.
Questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the proposal.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposal from O'Brien Business Systems dated January 5th, 2017.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up is a motion to consider the interim appointment. This was not on the original, agenda, but this is going to be an interim appointment with Ken Batten leaving. He obviously has left. Work. We need to make some appointments. Accommodate Ken's departure. And these, I believe, are going to be all interim appointments.
That's correct.
And the first one was consider an interim appointment of Joe Leese as the Code and Life Safety Director. I don't know if there's any questions about this. Order in the audience.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just give some brief background. It's been quite a week since Ken announced his resignation. We've had to interview a lot of folks, both on the volunteer and on the paid side, as well as some, we have a board of directors for the volunteer fire company, and then just doing some research, some very, very brief preliminary research on how this organization is structured. Apparently there's a resolution that defines the reporting lines for the fire function here that we have to take a look at. But in summary, we definitely need to appoint interim officials to get us through probably the next 3 to 4 months. My recommendation is that we develop a search committee, and I've shared those names and roles with you to perform that search. But during that, in the meantime, after talking with a number of both folks on the volunteer and on the paid side, we've come up with this roster of interim appointments that need to be made as part of that transition.
Yeah, like I said, some big shoes to fill. There's no questions. I'll entertain a motion that we're any comments. I'll entertain a motion for the interim appointment of Joe Leese.
We'll make a motion to appoint Joe Leese as interim code and life safety director.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then next up, Johnny alluded to this, to work with Lafayette College has a program, and you can add on whatever I say about this, that helps local or municipal governments with these types of leadership searches. That's how we got our township manager. That worked out pretty well. And I work personally as part of that process when we're looking for a township manager. So very impressed by their professionalism and their process. So, me personally, I highly recommend using them to help us with this.
And they're very cost effective, right? It's a flat fee.
Yeah, it's,
Flat fee.
the Minor Center out of Lafayette is actually a husband and wife that made an endowment to Lafayette College, and the purpose is to improve local government and the profession. So as professionals, openings come up, they help fill those. They're basically form an outside HR type function where they're coordinating the job ad, the resumes, the selection process, the interviews, all the administrative pieces to that. So yes, I'm the beneficiary of that here, and Scott Greenlee is as well. They did the search for Scott. And because of the endowment, as Sue said, the price is $3,500, which is, can't be beat for the work that they did. It would likely be a 3 to 4 month process. We want to make sure that we get the best candidate for the position. So we've recommended a panel of experts to help us with that.
If there's no further comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion for enlisting Lafayette College.
Make a motion to accept the proposal of Lafayette College to coordinate recruitment of the chief fire official.
Is there a second?
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up is, again, you mentioned several interim appointments to pick up some of the duties that Ken had. Again, if there's no questions, comments, I'll entertain a motion. I think we can probably do
We'll
this
do
in
the
one
40,
motion.
yeah. I'll make a motion to make interim appointments of the following people: Matt Fink as Chief Fire Official, Lada White, Chief Fire Marshal, Dan Kerrigan, Emergency Management Coordinator, and Steve Miller, Chief Building Official.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And last but not least, Ken also help with commercial plan reviews. I think, I don't know who mentioned this initially, but to help us with that, those duties, looking at Keystone Municipal Services to help with, at least in the interim, to help with the commercial plan reviews. I don't know if you want to add anything else to that.
We're recommending the retention of them as kind of an insurance policy. Some of our inspectors have the experience to do this, but now that we are one inspector short, the work gets difficult among 3 folks. So Joe and I will evaluate the workload and determine whether or not we defer any work to Keystone, or we can handle those internally. But Keystone is a very reputable firm. The rates are very competitive, and we're recommending the retention of them for the commercial plan review purposes.
So we have a high volume board, and maybe not enough people to cover it right now.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like they have a lot of great references, a number of adjacent townships, so.
The intent is as needed if needed.
Correct.
To be in place.
Correct.
We have no other questions?
I'll make a motion to appoint Keystone Municipal Services as a commercial plan review agency for the township.
Is there a second?
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up, consider approval of the 2017 holiday schedule.
I can take that one.
I don't know, may not be bad to post this somewhere on one of the,
Yeah.
so people know when we do have township building is closed. But yes, you're welcome to take it.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2017 holiday schedule.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up, a motion to consider approval of the assessment appeal settlement with Malvern Courts. Looks like it was something that was, the decision was in the township's favor. I'm going to Joe read that.
It's really a negligible difference.
Okay. So if anybody wants to approve that assessment appeal,
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept, to approve the assessment of the settlement stipulation. The Malvern Courts.
is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up, a motion to consider sending the township solicitor to the zoning hearing board to support or oppose. There's several, items before the zoning hearing board. I know previously we have made a motion to send the solicitor to Division 2 hearing to oppose based on environmental conditions that the township has set forth. The other 3 are solar panels. Unless Joe, you guys see any issue?
No, it was all.
So I would just recommend we continue what we had decided before about the Bishop 2 9 Mountain Road property. Any objections? Oh, yes.
Could you just state what that is?
The environmental conditions, or?
What you just said, what we're going to do with what we already agreed to, what one of them?
Yeah, so I want to say about 2 months ago, 2-3 months ago, Brian O'Neill's company, I can't think of the name of the
Constitution Partners.
Thank you, Constitution Partners, went before was going to go before the zoning hearing board to get a variance on the steep slope ordinance. And one of the things that we wanted to ensure, I think because part of it's going to be for stormwater remediation, was that as part of that condition of the variance, they agreed to certain environmental conditions that we have set forth. I think originally proposed by the EAC, or Environmental Advisory Council, because that was really the big reason why we rezoned the property, was to ensure that it was going to be cleaned up. So this is just another way for the township to ensure that the property is remediated in a way that we think is appropriate. I think part of it is even have oversight from the township as far as hiring an environmental engineer. So if they're going to disturb any of this property to build there, we want to make sure it's done in a way that does not disturb the contaminated part of the property, and done with some oversight from us.
So if I can understand what you're saying that you approved the waiver of the zoning for building on steepness?
No, I think actually we're deciding tonight, redeciding to send the township solicitor to the zoning hearing board to oppose the variance request unless our conditions are met.
Okay. That's what I wanted to make sure I understood.
I think the last motion was to withdraw our opposition if we get agreement for the conditions the EAC was proposing. What's different tonight is that my office added a lot more conditions. So I would just rephrase it.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't say the EAC, because I know in having a discussion with you about it, that the conditions had changed. So really we want to say that these are conditions from the township, although based on what the EAC had recommended. I think they came from a meeting a couple months ago, and in a statement expressed their concerns as far as how the property was being developed.
Are they published that I can get a copy?
I think it was in the minute, the conditions or the EAC statement.
The condition.
The EAC statement, they did not copy of it. Proposed conditions are in negotiation.
Okay, so not yet. But if you go to the zoning hearing board hearing,
23rd?
Yes.
you obviously will hear all of the conditions.
So the EAC will be attending that also.
Okay, thank you.
I do, for the benefit of the board and the audience, there is one condition that we're going back and forth when the EAC wanted total removal of the dirt. It's rephrased that all the dirt that's contaminated. But if it's at two, they can stay. That's the only difference with the EAC conditions. And then we added some.
So if we make a motion, how do we refer to these conditions? What can, the motion, how do you identify the conditions?
I'll just say you're opposing the application, not
approve the conditions.
But,
Mr. Chairman, I just need to make an administrative comment. We're getting a lot of feedback electronically on the request. So mine's going to.
Somebody else have a question, I'm sorry?
Yeah, so you're saying that we won't be able to see, nobody will be able to see the conditions until after the conditions have either been approved or not approved for that waiver.
I'm going to defer to our solicitor as far as the legal procedure, but, I mean, at some point, they will be publicized, but it sounds like they're right in the middle of negotiation, so we don't have the final conditions.
Well, I understand, but Charlie Women is very, very, very concerned about building on the steepness of that slope, and on top of the Superfund site. So, understanding what your conditions are would be a very important part of our position on that development.
Sure.
Unfortunately, right now, we don't have conditions, because we sent it to Emil yesterday. So I haven't gotten any feedback about what he's willing or not willing to agree to, or what he's going to propose or counter conditions. So it's a document being negotiated. After we have a meeting of the minds of the attorneys, I have no problem if anyone wants to look at it. It will be introduced at the public hearing, at the zoning hearing board level. We're going to ask the zoning hearing board to incorporate those conditions as part of their approval. So that's, the public will have their input, the public will have a chance to see and hear what the conditions are. But while we're negotiating, I would only be sharing the drafts that want to change. I don't think that's appropriate when we're negotiating an agreement.
So I think, Frank, in the, I don't know, if Gary, you can help me. I'm pretty sure in one of the board meeting minutes, the EAC's statement is attached to that.
I believe it is.
Do you remember what, was it November?
November.
Okay, so if you look at our November meeting minutes, Frank,
Okay?
the EAC's statement is in there. That should at least give you an idea of what, that is the basis for the conditions that we're requesting.
Okay.
But all the
Sure.
conditions are for environmental. There's nothing on the steep slope. That's the relief they're requesting from the zoning hearing.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions about this motion? Okay, if that's the case, I will, there's no other questions from the board staff on the motion. It sounds like it's just about Bishop 2 and then.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to send the township solicitor to the next zoning hearing board to oppose the Bishop 2 request for variance unless the environmental conditions are met, but not have any influence on panel zoning request.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up, motion to grant an extension of time for recording of land development plans. I think this is fairly standard, we got it,
Right,
right?
it's an extension of time to render a decision on the land development plans. And
Oh.
number one, for the Great Valley Community Organization, that would be extended to April 1st, 2017. And for number two, and Bishop 2 property, we would be extending that through March 9th, 2017.
And Scott, you said this was not for the recording, but
Right, this is for the board rendering a decision on these plans.
tell you what if I do this one? Okay, I'll make a motion to grant an extension for rendering a decision concerning the land development plans for the Great Valley Community Organization until April 1st, 2017, and 9 Mountain Road, Bishop 2, to March 9th, 2017. Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
And next up, a motion to consider approval of revised 2017 fee schedule. I did not see any
We
since
just
the
got it, I
meeting.
think, today, so
Okay.
I'm wondering if we could not vote on it this month, so we get a chance to
That's
look at
fine.
it.
I think we made some revisions already, so, okay, so we'll table that one. Next up, public hearings. We're not going to have public hearings, right?
No, correct.
So next up is a public hearing to consider adoption of Delaware Valley Workers' Compensation Trust ordinance and agreement. And I'll turn it over to our solicitor.
At this time, I'll open the hearing, introducing the record, Board Exhibit 1, which is the ordinance itself, and Board Exhibit 2, which are proofs of publication. And I'll hand it off to John to explain the content of the ordinance and the record.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. Our workers' compensation insurance expired as of the end of 2016. I notified the board well in advance of the expiration and asked for permission to make an administrative decision to choose the best offer that we had on the table. After getting that information from both the incumbent and a competitor, Kathy and I met with Rich Orlo and discussed the merits of both proposals. And the end result is that the Delaware Valley Insurance Trust total number was a little bit under $142,000 compared with the incumbent Susquehanna Municipal Trust. Their number was just slightly over $148,000. So comparable trust organizations, one's closer in proximity to East Lakeland Township and it's in the Delaware Valley. Susquehanna is out near Harrisburg. But the financial numbers were favorable to the Delaware Valley Workers' Compensation Trust, and we've actually had very good experience with them with both healthcare and the property liability. So I'm asking through this ordinance and hearing for the board to ratify the decision that was made in December 2016. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't even have my microphone on. I'm handing out copies of the, I think you may have gotten this, but I'm handing out copies of the ordinance, which is pretty much boilerplate for the trust, and also handing out copies of both proposals to show you what I just discussed.
Does the board have any questions at this point?
I mean, the only thing is that I'm going to assume, okay, so we're saving about $6,000 a year. And I imagine we maintain parity or did better than what the incumbent has provided so far, as the coverages.
Yes.
Okay.
It's pretty much apples and apples. You have to provide a certain.
Trying to turn it off. Thank you, because there's breaking news about this.
Comparable coverages, the rates are standard in the industry. Our experience modification, which is basically how safe our employees have been over time, is actually a little bit of a difference, which we did investigate. The Susquehanna number was slightly higher than the Delaware Valley number, but we're somewhere between 75 basis points and 83 basis points. I actually would like to get both of those numbers down. I'm used to banking organizations where the number's under 7. So the average, I believe, is 1. It's kind of like an individual, the very good or excellent organizations are generally in the 70 to 100 range.
Any other questions from the board? Are there any questions or public comment from anyone in the audience? Hearing and seeing none, we'll adjourn the hearing, reconvene into the public hearing portion of the agenda. This ordinance and the agreement are in a position for your consideration.
Yeah, I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 288-2017, which adopts the Delaware Valley Workers' Compensation Trust ordinance and agreement.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Is there any business? So, adjourned.